Thank you very much for attending this presentation. I really, really appreciate it, considering that Mick Kirsten is speaking right next door. So thank you very much. So today we're going to cover how at T-Mobile we transition HR domain to becoming a more agile, digital, and product organization. And I will explain to you, I will walk you through our journey, and I will explain why I decided to choose the HR domain, actually, the example of HR domain. This story is an experience report based on representing the divide between the business and technology. But what I want to say, it's not just applicable to HR. The learnings and the takeaways are very much applicable to any organization and are very much scalable. So my name is Shaaron Alvares. As you know already, I work at T-Mobile. I started in 2017 when I joined actually with HR domain as an Agile coach. And today I work with the head of our Agile transformation. So together we are, with a large team, we are actually scaling DevOps and Agile to the enterprise. Outside of T-Mobile, I'm also a news reporter and editor with InfoQ. And in fact, today I just published an interview with Nicole Forsgren. So I put it on the Slack, on the general Slack of DOES. So please check it out. It's a wonderful interview where she's giving a lot of additional information about the state of DevOps. And I have an interview of Jean Kim coming out on November 11th. So I'll share that with you as well. So before we jump into HR domain, I wanted to give you some numbers about T-Mobile. So T-Mobile was founded in 1990, and today we have roughly 52,000 employees. So we are growing, and we are number one. We have been number one in customer satisfaction in J.D. Powers in 3 years in a row. So it's a huge accomplishment for us. And in 2019, we are actually number 49 on the Fortune 500 list. And we moved up 37 places in just 1 year. So this is a huge accomplishment. And it tells you, it illustrates the effort that we are putting in our employees' experience. So great place to work with. Disruption, innovation and disruption is really part of our DNA. And as an example, in 2013, we were first to offer Un-carrier with no contract, and shortly followed with unlimited data. So if you don't have T-Mobile, talk to me. Voila. Before we jump into HR domain, I think it's helpful to look at the journey, T-Mobile's journey to Agile and to business agility. So in 2012, we saw DevOps grassroots efforts. So it started with teams spread over T-Mobile. And that's important because today, as we scale, we are actually leveraging those unicorns. We are taking all the lessons from those wonderful teams that have a lot of experience now, and we are leveraging that. And in 2015, a little bit 2015, we kicked off our first enterprise agile transformation, so a formal transformation, and it was led by technology. And in 2016, we saw an initiative led by the business, and they were exploring the Spotify model. So you can see in technology initiative, business initiative. And then in 2017, we actually iterated on what we were doing. And we kicked off recently, in fact, what we call our working model, so our new ways of working. So it's one of the largest transformations because it's actually led in partnership with the business. And it shows that we are rapidly transitioning to a product organization. And we are partnering very, very closely with the business. So something I want to illustrate, I attended All Hands, a technology All Hands, and they did some showcase of some of our projects we were releasing. And it was really interesting. I think that's going to make Jean really happy. it was really interesting to see that the presenters were from the business and technology. So I think that today, when you can walk in an organization and see the business partner with technology to do presentation, product demo, and product presentation at all hands, it's a huge accomplishment, right? So HR, continuous delivery, HR domain, we actually were among the first DevOps pilot in 2015. And that's admirable for an HR organization because we are generally the last, HR generally the last to adopt Agile, and when they actually do adopt Agile, right? So we started towards the end of 2014 and 2015. So why is that? Why did we, hop on the train at that time? So I think we are here to talk about DevOps, to share our experience about DevOps, how we scale. But we are also here to talk about how great our companies are, how great our cultures are, right? And the reason why we do that is because we are all facing the same HR conditions for change, the same HR challenges. So we are also here to spot talents. We are here to attract great talents, right? And we had several presentations at the conference, one from Dr. Almeida from Kronos, and another one from Dr. Martin from Google. And so HR has been completely turned upside down in the last 5 to 7 years. And we all have new expectations from work. So we all demand a seamless experience, digital experience at work. Nobody wants to go to work and have manual processes, right? We all want to be productive, and we want it to be easy. And then we also want to feel valued. So that's the reality today. So at T-Mobile, we believe that employees' experience is directly linked to customer experience. And there are more and more research from Gartner that are going in that direction. So 2 quotes that are really very good. One from John Ledger, who is our CEO. Listen to your employees, listen to your customer, and do what they tell you. And we want to give you a reason why you wouldn't want to work anywhere else, and we want to create an environment where you wouldn't want to work anywhere else, and that's from our CIO. It's something he mentioned this year during All Hands. Voilà, so HR domain ecosystem. To give you an idea of our scope, we support 9 primary capabilities with 7 cloud applications. So those applications support 125. We support 125,000 users. And we manage over 200 integrations between all these applications and other applications within the enterprise, right? So, and 90% of those integrations are batch jobs with no telemetry or very little telemetry. So a lot of challenges, and that's the reason why we needed to digitalize our application. So we have roughly 10 DevOps teams to support all of that, because we also support a large program. We also support the digitalization of our campus with a smart campus IoT. So we have teams working on digitalizing our campus as well. Voilà. So our primary goal was to improve on our operational efficiency. So timely delivery of data to downstream system, making sure that we are always on, that transactions are delivered end-to-end. HR continuous delivery journey. So before 2015, it starts in 2015, we are completely on-premise. We have one monolith, and we release every 12 months, roughly every 12 months. So what I call episode 1 is when we start introducing Agile and DevOps, and we introduced Scrum, and we were supported by the enterprise. So we are part of a large effort. And episode 2, so 2017, 2018, We go a step further, and we introduced Lean and Biz DevOps, and I'll talk about that in greater details. I joined roughly at that time, a little bit before. And in 2019 and 20, we are actually focused on 90% business digitalization. Okay, episode 1, we are doing Agile. So we spent about a year and a half to progressively bring our DevOps team together. So we brought development, QA, ops together to form a true DevOps teams. Then we organized our team behind product and capabilities and value streams. And we implemented a continuous delivery pipeline and established a partially automated path to deployment. So we worked on all of that roughly in 2017, 16, and 17. And we immediately saw great results. We had IT cross-functional teams, DevOps teams. We went from 12-month release cycle to monthly, and then bi-weekly and weekly. And we also established the beginning of a product capability. So we worked really closely with our business stakeholders, and we moved progressively away from BRD. So great accomplishments. And there's a but. We still had misalignment with the business, frustrations, and we were still facing friction. And we had silos, handoffs, misunderstood impediments, invisible impediments, so that we had to fix along the way. So it became obvious that we actually we implemented Agile, we rolled out practices and DevOps without fully understanding the principle behind those frameworks. And that's often the case, actually. So it also became obvious that we put pieces of a puzzle together, but we didn't have a vision and an end purpose, and we didn't think about the outcome. And I think what was missing was, in fact, the business outcome. We focused on the enablers, but we didn't focus on the business outcome. Okay? So, and I want to pause and look at what I call the Old Transformational Paradigm. We have seen a lot of organizations at the conference describing episode 1, episode 2, or phase 1, phase 2, step 1, step 2. And we are all, even if we are seeing great benefit, we also see that there's still misalignment with the business. So I'm trying to understand what's going on because we are all going through the same motion. And I like the way Carmen Diardo says it, and I put the link to the video. It's a remarkable video, by the way. I highly encourage you to watch it. He said, we have implemented Agile, we have implemented new technology, we have certified processes. It's fantastic, right? So why is the business still unhappy? And I want to add, it's not just the business. We often say the business is unhappy. It's true, there's frustration, but I don't think that technology is happy either, right? I don't think the DevOps team are happy if the business is unhappy. And I've seen it over and over again. I think the DevOps team, they thrive, they are happy when they see that the business is happy. So we have to work together to bring the business along, right? So what's the problem? I see several anti-patterns. The first one, we focus on enablers, right? We start our transformation with Agile, with DevOps, and we roll out complex frameworks, methodologies, and we start with the technology and Agile. And in fact, those transformations are still driven by legacy waterfall thinking. And and we apply those drivers across what I call dimension, which can be strategy, org structure, people, processes. So that, to me, looks very much like a PMBOK. Agile doesn't have a PMBOK, but it looks very much like a PMBOK to me. And those dimensions, by the way, I put the reference. They are extracted from an article from McKinsey, published in 2018. So the new transformational paradigm. So I looked at what we can do better. And in this model, we focus on the business model, innovation, and value first. So we focus on product, value, business outcome first. And the three cornerstones of this model are what, when, and how. So we start with the what, identify valuable outcome for the business, identify how soon, how fast it needs to be delivered. So that's the prioritization and the speed and flow. And then look at the how you're going to give that to the business. So here you can see that first we focus on the what and when, prioritization, and the enablers comes only at the end. So we looked at the enablers only at the end. We didn't put the enablers at the beginning. So I didn't want to roll out additional framework, additional practices onto our teams because they were already agile fatigued, right? And there are some pillars that are really important, like look at the business benefit, we want teams aligned to product, and so on. And one thing that's really important, it's not 1, 2, 3, it happens in cycle continuously. And the business and technology work together in synchronization. So we met with our business stakeholders literally every day. I co-located, even if I'm on the technology side, I co-located with my business for 2-3 months to understand what the pain points were and so on. So really important. So back to T-Mobile, with all of that in mind, we decided to change our approach. And bring the business back into DevOps. So, by the way, I don't think that DevOps ever intended to exclude the business. I don't think so. But I think that when we try to work with the business and we tell them, hey, we're going to do DevOps, I think it's really difficult for them to understand, okay, what's the benefit? And when we explain to them that we're doing business DevOps, we're really helping them get value faster, it really helps psychologically, right? But I don't think that DevOps ever intended to exclude the business. On the contrary, the ultimate goal of DevOps is to deliver value to the business. So episode 2, One True North. We wanted to foster one leadership team across HR, business partner, and technology, one product team, and one culture. That was really important. And focused on delivering value. So I don't have the timer, by the way, so I don't know how I'm doing. Sorry, Okay, so number 1, value and prioritization. So the 2 first cornerstones. So we made it a point, and here I want to applaud our technology senior managers. They did an amazing job making sure that they were identifying the value of all our features and user stories in a business terminology, using a business lingo, using a business outcome. So we identified the value, we tracked it, we measured it, and we communicated on the outcome using business language, not technology language. And that was initiated by our technology managers, by the way. So we are still working on that. We're doing a lot of work to improve on that, and I'll talk about it during the last slide. And we improve on our single portfolio intake and prioritization cycle. So having a single HR IT portfolio intake allowed us to drive full transparency. So we had one single intake, and it allowed us to drive complete transparency, remove inconsistency and any challenges. We didn't introduce quarterly big room planning. We actually had big room planning, but we perfected, we improved on that practice. And what we did we don't just do planning during big room planning and then sprint planning with the teams. We made sure that we had a continuous checkpoints with the business and a continuous rhythm of business centered around prioritization. So for example, we don't call them like that, but we had meetings with leadership teams and with the product leadership that are very similar to a product meta scrum. And we have an executive action team. So the terminology is coming from a Scrum at scale. And it's simply leaders are meeting every morning to look at the delivery impediments, the flow impediments, and prioritization impediments. So you can see that our leadership, product leaders, and technology leaders work constantly together, weekly, and they address any impediments to the delivery teams. So now, once we have identified the value, we prioritized it, we wanted to make sure that we have an efficient pipeline to deliver it end-to-end. So, but in order to go faster, we need to know how fast we're going, right? And oftentimes, we don't know that. So we did several exercises of value stream mapping. And we mapped out our value flow across the end-to-end cycle, product delivery cycle. And we looked at a few key aspects. So we looked at the people interaction, because we have a lot of roles that are overlapping, and because we are also working on role rationalization and role clarity, we wanted to understand where we could optimize the flow, actually, of our work. So the people interaction, we looked at the tools we use and the interaction with the tools, who interact with the tools, when and what. And this is typical activity when we do a value stream mapping, by the way. And we looked at the rhythm of business, the reports, and the status we provide. The reason for that is because I really believe that when we transition from project to product, we produce a lot of status reports, right? Sometimes weekly. And we work on activities, on tasks, only because we have to deliver a status report, right? And so we wanted to make sure we understood what was the purpose of that report, and do we need it, or can we remove that status? So we looked at almost all the data available from Rally. We were using Rally at that time. And I also looked at the quarterly big room retrospective of our teams, because it gives you a lot of interesting data about organizational impediments. So we made a few observations, and I'm sure you're going to, if you've done value stream mapping, and if you are transitioning from project to product, you are probably going to be familiar with those key impediments. So the first one, we saw that we had two microflows. We have a flow in the product design and development cycle, and then we have a microflow in the product continuous delivery cycle. So in the first area, and I don't want to call them phase, right, because we're not doing waterfall, we're really trying to becoming agile. So in the first area, that work is more people-centered, right? So we are writing reports, we are conducting assessment, we are doing research, and so on. And I don't mean to say it's more creative, more human, because development is also creative. But the work is uncertain, the estimates are uncertain, and the work is actually, the deliverables are not predictable, right? Whereas in product continuous delivery, we have an automated pipeline, and it's still creative work, but if we have delays, so the work, the delays, and time to recovery are more predictable, right? So that's the first observation. The next one, we saw that there was a clear handoff between product development and the DevOps teams. So that's also an observation we made, a handoff. And that handoff was painful for both groups, actually. It was painful for the product development team and painful for the DevOps teams. So the third observation we made is we have two lead time. We saw that we have two lead times. So we have one lead time that I call tribal knowledge lead time. And it's the lead time, it's actually the actual lead time. It's when we deploy to production. But that lead time is not always documented in our tools. And that's because when we deploy a feature, we don't always close it in the tools. And so there's a lot of steps that happen that are not always consistently documented in the tools, right? So with all that information in mind, we wanted to, with all the conversation, the data we gathered from value stream mapping and the conversation we had with the business, we wanted to make sure we would help and roll out practices that what I call value and flow first practices. We wanted to make sure that we were going to roll out, help them with techniques, patterns, and practices that would be valuable to them. We didn't want to roll out anything that would not solve any of those challenges. So we wanted to target the pain points, right? And so I won't go over all of them because there are quite a few practices. 4 minutes, there are quite a few practices, but I want to touch on 2 of them. And the first one is story mapping. So I introduced story mapping. It's a great technique to do with your DevOps teams and product teams because we put everybody in the room. It's very similar to value stream mapping, but we focus actually on breaking down initiatives, features, and we develop a product backlog. But we don't do it in silo with the product team only. We do it with the development team. It's a great, great technique. It was so successful that the business adopted it for their own work, and they started socializing it within the business as well. So great result. And when you do story mapping, you also work on MVP. We introduce personas that help them empathize, that help the technology team empathize better with their customers, but also the HR business stakeholders empathize with the needs of the employees. So a second technique I want to talk about, it's not new, it's swarming, and there's been a few talks actually about swarming. So it's interesting because once we identify the most valuable feature, we generally treat it the exact same way as we treat other features, right? The only difference is we put it on the top of the backlog, and the teams work on that feature in the exact same manner, right? There's no difference. But it's the most valuable feature for the business. So don't we want to deploy it to production as quick as possible so that we can get their feedback? And so with the team, we wanted to make sure that we were constantly thinking, and even if it meant customizing practices or coming up with new practices, we were constantly thinking about how can we get the features to the business as fast as possible so that we can get their feedback. So we leveraged swarming, and which allowed us to deliver features much faster to the business, and a great success as well. So all of those techniques actually are documented. I did a presentation at the product school, so I won't go over all of them. But I did a presentation at the product school, and there's a video posted on YouTube, a really long video of 1 hour and a half almost. And I wrote an article published on LinkedIn, and the reference is on the slide as well. So great success with all those practices and with the relationship that we built with the business. We saw a great improvement in our relationship, so with the HR business satisfaction. We saw an improved relationship between the teams and the business, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the team to have an opportunity to work directly with the business, interact with them. That's really important, right? A greater alignment, transparency, and trust. And we did all of that with tons of fun. So, and in the business own world, I think for me, there's nothing more valuable, and no pun intended here, more valuable than recognition from the business. So we received several recognition, and what was interesting to note is the goal that we set to do to bring the teams together, develop a unified culture, unified team, we succeeded. So 9 months into the work we were doing with them, we received a formal recognition, and it was a huge achievement for us, yeah.
Time check. You're 7 over or 8 over, so just FYI.
Oh, thank you. So a lot of people ask me, how did you do it? A lot of people came to ask me, and what was really interesting, they didn't ask me, hey, What techniques did you deploy? What practice? How did you do it? And so on. What they asked me is, how did you build trust and relationship with the business? So everybody was interested in the relationship, in the trust, and less in the practices. So my answer to them was 100% empathy. And what that means is we are all good people. We are all very much capable of empathizing, right? But the thing is, we go back to our desk, to our emails, our pictures, our backlog, and we don't act on empathy, right? And so it's really important when we have a conversation with the business and they share feedback, it's really important to partner with them and act on that feedback. If we don't have the means to solve that, we work with our managers, but it's really important to act on it timely. So 100% empathy, and I like that quote, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Voila, real quick, our change catalyst and success factors. So I think when we lead a really large transformation like that, it's important to make allies. So we work closely with our leadership team, and we included everybody, all the SMEs we could find, and don't make your transformation a black box, empower your people to move it forward. So we work with a lot of SMEs, we organize a community of practices, and so on. And to finish, some takeaways. So demonstrate value early. That's really important. Identify, demonstrate value early. Apply lean software development, lean and biz DevOps to software development, and continuously improve, inspect and adapt. And then embrace complexity and apply system thinking and holistic agility. So you saw, even if we improved a lot of the areas, we were missing the big picture. So it's really important to improve holistically your organization and walk the talk. So use Agile to implement Agile. And here I go back to the old paradigm and the new paradigm. In the old paradigm, we project manage our transformation. But in the new paradigm, we productize the transformation, right? So our transformation becomes a product. Voila. So help. I'm going to make a lot of enemies today. I'm looking to automate Agile, not agility, all right? I think we are spending an outrageous amount of time and hours managing our product backlog, entering user stories, closing on user stories, and so on. So, voila. Thank you very much. I'm over time. Thank you very much.